Good morning, everybody. Welcome to this session on used cars today. It's great to see that we've got another standing room situation, people lurking around the back. If you want to step in, it might be a little bit easier to hear the closer you are to the speakers. Do feel close to step in. We've got a great panel here for you this morning, focused very much on the independent sector and the challenges that the industry faces in dealing with used car retail. There's clearly opportunities out there, as we've seen from the finance results over 2021 and the first half of this year. So the aim of today is to come up with some good practice advice, but also to discuss the sector and get a little bit more clarity about where you can make improvements in your business and the strategies that might lead you to greater success in future. I'm told that it's going to deliver 5 steps to excel as an independent used car dealer. I would recommend taking notes. I'm not going to compile a bullet point at the end of the presentation, so please do take notes and take what you can from the insight given by, as I say, a great panel that we've got for you today. So let me welcome, first of all, we've got Umesh Samani, IMDA chairman, celebrating 5 years of the organisation this month, which is great news. Congratulations, Umesh. We've got Philip Williams here, Chief Commercial Officer from Oodle Finance, who are sponsoring this seminar and will offer undoubtedly some really interesting insight into the sector, which is doubly trying to deal with the cost of living crisis and drive affordability for car retail customers. On the end there, we've got Stuart Saunders, who is founder of Urban Cars and is keen to sort of share all his knowledge today alongside his Scottish independent counterpart, Jim Reid. It's always nice to have a variety of accents on the stage. Not often we get a Yorkshireman chairing. We've got a Bristolian on AM, and that's always good to hear. So let's before we get cracking, let's just say open the notebooks, make notes, take from it what you can, and we'll get into a great discussion for the next half an hour. So I guess I'll start with you, Umesh. What a challenging 12 months, but the margins that we've seen as well, is there any need to advise people on 5 steps to used car success? This is telling people how to shell peas, isn't it, at the moment?
Good morning. Yes, not quite that easy, I think. I think the biggest challenge is we've all had it easy for the last couple of years, and this year is a little bit different, I suppose, in comparison, because the stock hasn't been readily available, and I suppose the market isn't as strong. However, it has been the best 2 years, I think, for most dealers out there. If they haven't had the best 2 years, I think there's time to pack up and go home, in my opinion. But certainly it's still continuing. It's not down. It's not depression. I think all the dealers will agree. The biggest challenge is trying to find the right stock and making the right margin. It's not about just shelling cars away.
So I know that you rely on a very loyal customer base and quite a profile, I'd hasten to add. How have you gone about addressing in your business that issue of finding stock, which has been the key challenge, really?
I take a different approach to a lot of other dealers out there. I'm sure there's a few other dealers similar to me. I've always bought privately. So all the cars that I buy for 25 years, I've been in business 25 years, for those who don't know, has been buying cars directly from private owners or 1 or 2 trusted trade contacts. So that's where I get the cars. I can tell the story about those cars. I've met the people I'm buying the cars from, and they are higher quality. That's the difference. Whereas if you're buying from auctions, and we all have to buy, or dealers have to buy from auctions, you can't always rely on the quality of it and the reconditioning costs. So I've literally, for 25 years, planting the seed. If you want to sell your car, sell it to me. I'll make it easy, I'll make it quick. Long before the big branded websites are out there saying, sell your car to us. And I think over the many years, I think a lot of particularly franchise dealers have been very idle, not to want to do the homework with the customer to take the cars in part exchange. They've given away those cars to the buying sites, and I think they've been the penalty for it now. So I've just been literally saying, sell your car to me, go and buy a new car, get your discount off the new car. I'll give you the best price, I'll give you the top price if that car is my profile. And that has built up a database, what I call raving fans, for 25 years. So that's been what I've been doing for 25 years.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jim, is that a similar approach for you? I mean, both yourself and Umesh you benefit from quite a strong social media profile. I guess that plays part of it as well.
Yeah, it certainly does. I think, very similar to Umesh, we buy the majority of our vehicles from the public as well, directly from the publics. So that way we actually see the vehicles prior, obviously, to buying them. Auction, I've never been to auction. Very few dealers can say that. I'd never buy from auction at all. The last couple of years has been a bit more difficult, especially this last 8 months, 9 months, because you use other than the general public buying from, you've got remarketing groups and you've got trusted traders. You've had to step outside that to keep the volume up for pulling cars into stock. And once you step outside that trusted trader, it's very difficult because you're into unknown ground. And we have been stung a couple of times, well, more than a couple of times this year, with bad stock. So that's difficult. The social media side of things, from buying and selling, definitely helps. We've set up a separate web domain, sellyourcar@jim.com, and that drives people straight to our website, and then we capture the details from there, contact the customers, and most of them are local, so it works. Yeah.
And Urban Cars, is that a similar sort of format? Are you appealing to people to sell their cars to you? Are you marketing that at the same time?
Yeah, so I started about 3-4 years ago, really focusing my business on buying privately. Prior to that, I was buying from auctions, but I noticed that the profit for income per retail unit was at best average. Switched across to buying privately. Do a lot of work through Google Ads, which is where I get most of my leads. And the quick maths was simple. If I looked at what I was spending on buyer's fees at auction, if I was say 10 cars a month, £400 buyer's fee, that's £4,000 that I could put into a marketing fund. Use that with Google Ads, offline marketing. The customers bring the cars to me, I haven't got to travel out and get them. I can check them over in our workshops before we buy them. And we're buying them at a price that is probably lower than we can get them at auction. So I've seen a big increase in the income per retail unit over the last 2-3 years. And yes, the market has helped. It's a market that's rising at times, but there's definitely been a clear correlation between the sourcing of cars, you get your sourcing of your cars right, and it will drive profits, because we're not really doing anything different in terms of the profile of cars we're stocking, add-on products. It's broadly the same, but the chassis profit has definitely increased, and that has come off the back of the activity that we do in buying cars privately. And as small operators, I have a 30-car pitch. I'm in this world, I'm very small. It's a micro business almost. But what we're good at is overcoming and adapting to the environment we find ourselves in. And you have to constantly do that to keep ahead of the competition. But it's a good time for small car dealers, certainly for me, in terms of profit. I'm quite upbeat and happy for the future going forward.
I'm interested to know sort of how difficult that conversation is about price when acquiring stock. I mean, the public in an inflationary environment such as we're in now, they're more aware than ever the value of their stock, and we're also in the independent sector faced with increased competition from various suppliers, some of whom are here today, of course, who have set up their own stock sourcing avenues. So, you're not always going to be able to offer the best price, perhaps. So how does that conversation go?
Well, there's been a shift in the way the public value their own cars. So for those that have been in the trade a long time, like myself, in the early days, sort of pre-internet, people looked at other forecourts to try and value their own part exchange. So they'd go around to a few dealers and they'd see a Vauxhall Cavalier similar to theirs, and they'd go, that's what that car is on that forecourt. I think I'll get that price a little bit less from the dealer if I go and part exchange it. So they're working from retail backwards. Move the clock forward to present time. Most people, if they're thinking, how much is my car worth? Get their phone out of the pocket, WeBuyAnyCar.com. And that's the figure they're working from. So they're working from a much lower figure, hopefully going upwards, rather than retail down. It's a massive shift. To be fair, I'm talking about a long period of time, but now people are using the online services, buying services, WeBuyAnyCar.com, motors, etc., etc. And that then becomes kind of the base level. So when they come in to see us, for us to buy it for a few £100 more, it's easy because the hard work's kind of already been done, and we can then just buy the car. The retail prices have been quite solid this year because of the lack of supply of new. So that's giving us, quite a healthy margin.
Absolutely, yeah, and we've seen that throughout the year. The margins have been significant. But I'll come back to you, Umesh. I was sort of keen to know in this piece, this value piece of the business at the moment. Have you adjusted the stock that you're taking in? Have you seen IMDA members having to adjust the profile of the stock to try and keep vehicles on the forecourt?
I think, in all honesty, I think most dealers have changed the stock profile the last couple of years. It's been higher value cars, I would say, all of us. I think we've seen that, quite a big shift on that. So people who were selling, £5,000-10,000 cars, all of a sudden there's to £15,000-20,000 cars. So the market has definitely changed massively last couple of years. The cheaper cars seem to have disappeared now. Well, there's no such thing as cheap cars because those £2,000-3,000 cars are now selling for £5,000-6,000, should we say. And I think sometimes it's very difficult, especially when we've been up in the trade for such a long time, to look at a vehicle and say, how can that be worth that much? But it's the market, isn't it? We don't dictate the market. That's what you have to explain to the customers as well. That's the market. We're buying to the market, selling to the market.
Yeah, absolutely.
But certainly the stock profile, I think for all of us, it has certainly raised for the last couple of years.
And Philip, I guess finance has got a key role to play at the moment with cost of living. More and more people accessing different ways to spread the cost of payment.
Yeah, I think with the increasing cost of living crisis, the Bank of England 5 rate rises this year, presenting a lot of challenges to us. Clearly that's squeezing people's affordability budgets, and not only do we have to price for that in our products, but we also have to take into account that's going to squeeze people's budgets, give them less to spend on cars, etc. going forward. So, there's a lot of challenges out there, but I think what we have seen in the last 12 months is definitely a switch towards older vehicles and dealers being more willing to buy older vehicles and stock them, whereas perhaps that may not have been the case 2-3 years ago, and we've had to adapt our products to actually finance older cars, which perhaps we wouldn't have done previously. What gives me the confidence there, though, is that a 14-year-old car today is vastly different to a 14-year-old car 30 years ago. So it's given us enough confidence to do that, and certainly the earlier sort of arrears and sort of SQ data we're seeing off financing those older cars is really encouraging. So
yes, challenging times. I mean, I'll come to you, Jim, but I was keen to sort of know exactly how those APR rates have changed with the inflation that we're seeing and the interest rate rises. How's that impacted you?
Yeah, so we followed the rate, so we've obviously had a choice when our supplier comes to us and says that the rate increase is going to be there. You've got a choice either to swallow it and make less commission, or you distance it, or you go up to. And we've just kind of balanced it out so it looks fair, well, it is fair for our customers going forward. We've had a rate increase. We have gone from a 7.9 up now in increases to 10.9 at the retail for cars and 2% less for commercials. But it is the world. Everybody knows it's not going to stop there. I mean, there's some really scary news coming pretty soon, I think, with obviously the rate increases going forward, and that will continue into next year, I think. So, and we've people understand it's not us, it is the market. It's actually pushing forward with regards to the rate increases. But if you swallow it, it is affecting your profitability quite substantially. But you've got to keep within obviously the FCA rules, treating customers fairly. We put out one rate, and that's it. So.
I was in a roundtable discussion this morning. Someone suggested part of the crisis was a media-created recession, which always gets my hackles up, because I've got the notepad and the pen, of course. But the other side of that is that the media, the news, the flow of bad news in some ways, it does increase consumers' understanding, and they come into the showroom knowing perhaps that they're going to face those higher APR rates. So has that been a difficult conversation for you, or is it fairly straightforward?
I mean, the media side of things, the media can get both sides, can't it? I mean, it gets a good side and a bad side of things. But it makes it easier for the conversation with the dealer to the customer, because they know that it's not our decision, obviously, to push up the rates. It's forced upon us as well. And news travels a lot quicker than it did 20 years ago, because social media obviously makes that immediate on your phone. So you can actually see those increases straight away, and they are made straight away as well, whereas a rate increase like 20 years ago would have taken months to go on. It's now immediate. You just end the week, isn't it?
Yeah.
Everything's changed on your website, all your calculators are changed on your website. It is immediate, so.
Yeah.
It does, I think it does make it easier. It makes it easier for us to speak to customers. Yeah.
What's your approach been, Stuart, to the finance offer that you're able to deliver to customers?
We've had to increase our rates in line with many other dealers, and the feedback hasn't been great, but the finance penetration has broadly been the same. And I think there's an acceptance from the general public that everything's gone up. Everything you touch, put fuel in your car, you buy food off the shelves, everything's a little bit more expensive. So that's helped us, in a way, explain the difference in APRs from when a customer bought 3 years ago. We're early into this process with these rate changes, and I think that would be a more relevant question maybe in 3, 6, 12 months, when we can look back on more data and see what impact that's made. But at the current time, the finance penetration is broadly what it has been, despite a rate increase for us.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess a fundamental part of all your businesses, and one that's been hard to keep track of over the last 12, 18 months, has simply been pricing a vehicle well to market. At AM, we're very used to dealing in the franchise side, and there are KPIs, measurements, and algorithms used to do everything nowadays. Is it still, Umesh, is it still, feel and touch and smell when it comes to pricing a vehicle for you, or are you very much following the market data?
It's very interesting with that question, because there is so much data out there. Everybody's got a platform there which gives us data on that one. Sometimes you can get too much drawn into data, in my opinion. So with some cars which are quite unique, it is touch, feel, smell, gut feeling. I know there's a lot of data people out there be saying it's totally wrong, don't do it that way. I've run my business 25 years using data where I think it's needed, and then using my gut feeling. It's worked for me so far, but we're all running businesses different ways. There's lots of businesses that rely solely on data, and it works for them. But to me, every used car is unique. You've got to sell what's there, the benefits of it, be condition, history, mileage, uniqueness, the spec. And sometimes the data doesn't quite always reflect all those things out there. Plus, the biggest thing is who you're dealing with. Because at the end of the day, I keep saying to all the customers, there's so many dealers out there, 12,000, 15,000 dealers out there. You have a choice to go and buy that car anywhere, almost. But you've got to tell them why they should be buying from you.
Are you taking the data feeds and adding a layer of experience on top of that, or is it all Umesh?
No, I use the data. I use the data, study it, think about it, and then think, okay, is my car worth more? And why is it worth more? And I will ask more for it. I'm not afraid to ask more for my cars, because I believe my cars are better quality and they're dealing with me. So.
Yep. Yeah, same story at Jim Reid.
I think it's down to value, isn't it? How do you measure value? Price is money, value is experience, and you've got to look at it differently, because, as Umesh said, the preparation that we put into our vehicles, we over-prepare our vehicles. So the likelihood of you breaking down with your car, we can't guarantee it, but it's less likely than it is from buying from somebody else that hasn't done the same preparation. Would you be prepared to pay more for that vehicle? Most likely, yes, because you want, obviously, security to know that you're not going to break down on the side of the motorway. Also, the preparation side of things, how clean a vehicle is. I know, because I've just bought a brand new car, and my brand new car wasn't quite as clean as what our used cars go out at. That's all I need to say. So this is where the independents have got the edge, because we can make decisions there and then to up the standards, or and price them as we need to. There's always guidance out there, but there's never been a bigger disparity between what some of the classifieds guide a price at and what the trade prices are at. There's going to be sometimes it can be a difference of £2,500. Why? Why is that? And it is just, I think a lot of it is to do with using the data to a certain point, like what Umesh has said, but also how you present your vehicle and how much spend that you've put on it, I think guides the price.
Absolutely. One of the key concerns, I guess, that the whole sector has had to get their heads around, and I guess Philip has got an insight into this as well, but the new FCA consumer duty rules, I guess there's a little bit more disclosure of commissions demanded by customers now than there was before. But certainly, is there more concern about those compliance issues now? There was a deadline end of October to get a plan in place. I guess most independents perhaps are appointed representatives. But how much of a concern are these tightening regulations?
I think the regulations, like any regulations, you've got to embrace the regulations. You can't, you don't have a choice. It's simple as that. If those are the rules, you've got to stand by the rules. As you say, most independents, I think, would be appointed representatives, which means that decision is actually made somewhere else, and we've obviously got to adopt that further down the road, which is always a big help because it takes a lot of hassle away from us making those guidances just now. But change will continue to happen. It's not the only change that's going to happen. It will continue on. The FCA, you've got to look at the FCA's point of view and the wider public. They are doing the right thing for the wider public. They are protecting the wider public. So is that a bad thing? It's it is regulation, isn't it? It's a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And Stuart, do you find that customers are aware of the protections they have, the changes in regulations, and is it something that they're reassured by, I guess, when they buy a used car?
Certainly they're aware of their rights to do with the Consumer Rights Act 2015. There's a lot online, and rightly so. And for most dealers, certainly most IMDA dealers, that's not an issue because we go above and beyond that anyway. And just touching back on the changes with the FCA, I think I speak on behalf of all the IMDA dealers and saying we welcome those changes, as Jim just pointed out. If it makes the experience for the customer better and fairer, brilliant. Let's change. We can change and adapt. We're very good at that as small independent dealers. What we need is the finance companies, and I'm sure Udall, very forward-thinking, will help us with this. We need the finance companies to guide us and sit us down and say, look, this is what you need to do. So it's a better experience for the customer and a better outcome. There's going to be a slight change in paperwork. We need the guidance from them and the reassurance that they're there to sort of hold our hand through that process, so it's doesn't get to the point where we decide actually is it worth doing finance or not, because certainly in my business the finance is the cherry on the cake, whereas some of the guys here today might be the other way around, where the finance is the cake and the cherry's the chassis profit. So it's slightly different depending on the size of business that you are. But I don't have any issues with regulation change. If it's better for the customer, that's great. Let's work with it.
And I guess it sort of plays into the Udall model, where you're taking a bit of that, in a way, a bit of that burden away. Retailers can sit back and have customers that are able to arrange their own finance in a lot of cases.
Yeah, but our core business, let's be clear about it. 96% of our business is dealing with guys like this. It's dealing with independent dealers. That's what we do. I think consumer duty is a big change, but I think if everybody applies a bit of common sense, everybody wants the right outcome for the customer, right? If you don't get the right outcome, you're not going to get repeat customers. And I think if you bear that in mind, but if people haven't read about consumer duty, I'd encourage you to read the document. And if anybody does want help, we're going to be putting a help pack together for independent dealers in the new year, and happy to talk to you about it and obligations around it. But I think we've also got to think of other changes that are potentially coming. I will be shocked if sometime in 23 we're not all asked to do full commission disclosure. So I think that is probably a change that's going to come, and we should start, all of us, to be thinking about that, what it means to us as a finance company, but also what it means to you as independent dealers as well. And better to think ahead in these things, right? You don't want to be picking up at the last moment.
Absolutely, and I guess it all plays into something ultimately, which is, you know, looking after customers well, and in this cost of living crisis, we're running out of time really. We've got a few minutes, but I was hoping to sort of see, Umesh, what levers have you got? You know, how do you reassure customers coming into your dealership that they're, you know, that they've got an affordable vehicle in front of them, and you know, how do you soften the blow if it's at all possible at the moment?
I think if people have made their mind that they're going to buy the car anyway, I think they already decide their own mind, can they afford it? So I think it's just a matter of making sure that they can afford it. Some sort of protections, obviously warranties, to make sure there's no unexpected bills they're going to be caught out with. And on the service side, we've also got to partner with Bumper, which is spreading your service costs. So it's all those little things just to help let the customers say, like, you know, if there's a big bill, you're not going to be stung, you can spread the payments over it. But I think most customers are switched on, that they've worked out, can they afford X amount a month with the rest of the outgoings. So I don't think it's particularly a shock when they come in, they've already made that decision to buy. Yeah. Whichever way, either, you know, fully funded themselves or the finance route.
Yeah. So some retailers have clearly felt a shock though this year, as most households have, with the rising cost of living, doing business, heating, and the rest of it. I'll start with you down at the end, Stuart. But what have you done in your business to try and mitigate against all these rising costs at the moment?
It's difficult to mitigate against all the costs, and I've seen my electricity bill rise from £200 a month to £600, and we don't use a lot of electricity. Lights and a compressor, that's about it really. So it's difficult to, where do you make a reduction in costs there? Turn the lights off and then the guys can't see what they're doing? We just make sure that the bit we can control, which is delivering good customer service, making sure the cars are clean and prepared, making sure they're prepared on the forecourt before they're advertised. So if a customer lead comes in, the car's ready to go. They're all the bits that we can control. We concentrate on those, we get those right. We've got Google reviews, we've got the history of the business, which helps with the repeat and referral business. So I don't really see it as a huge problem. Yes, it's something that we've got to keep an eye on, but it's not something that's going to break the business for me personally.
Jim, have you become more conscious of turning the lights off when you're off to collect that next car that you bought?
Unfortunately, I stay in Scotland, which is dark all the time, so that doesn't help. Yeah, I mean, we're all conscious of it. We are all conscious of it. I mean, luckily, I'm you know, personally, we're tied into a decent long-term deal with both gas and electric, so we haven't been affected as yet, which is fantastic. But the end of next year, obviously, there'll be a big change. But you know, going back to what Stuart's exactly said, you know, we don't have any control over it. You know, you don't have any control over your electricity bill going up at home. You've just got to deal with it as you see fit. And if that means, you know, switching off that extra lights or using less heating, that is what we've got to do as a business as well. However, the main core of business is, you know, what are we in business for? We're in business to service the customers to the best of our ability in the fairest way that we do it, and make money along the way. You know, we're not going to start putting, you know, thousands of pounds more across our cars, because we can't, because competition stops that. You know, finance will not finance a vehicle which is overpriced, so you can't do that either. So you've just got to make the best of the job that you've actually got there. But listen, there's a lot of doom and gloom out there, as you know. But the reality is, you know, we are where we are. We choose to do what we do. We all absolutely love what we do, and we're really passionate about, obviously, delivering customer service and customer experience. And that is what will keep us in business for years to come.
Absolutely. And Umesh, you're not cutting your hours down on the lights and the heating and things, are you? What's happening?
Nothing at all, really, to be honest with you. And bizarrely, actually, you mentioned the lights, because not just recently, but if on a very sunny day, it's lovely and bright, I've got 4 banks of lights, I'll knock a couple of them off. But I've always done that. It's not something new. Might only be little things, but little things that mount up to massive things. But certainly not cut the hours down. Everything else is business as usual. You have to do, as Jim has just explained. We do what we do, like every business. You can't switch things off and work in darkness, can you? You know,
No, not
you
at all.
just have to handle a situation as thrown to us. Every day is challenging. That's just another challenge that's been thrown to us with electric, gas, and things. But you just move on.
Yeah.
You know, we don't want to be doom and gloom. But, you know, we're all positive people. Most people are positive. Just get on with it, isn't it?
And we're anticipating another year of growth, strong margins. There's no sign of that supply coming back anytime soon, is there?
Supply's still very short, isn't it, really? You know, the demand is probably quite not as strong as it has been. However, it'll still be, you know, the demand is still there. Yeah, sure.
Keep rinsing that social media and ensure that your profile, you know, keeps you a customer base that guarantees you that direct private customer. I suppose that's a strong message that comes
I
from.
think we've all got to shout about what we do. Yeah, there's so many businesses there. Don't tell the world what they do.
Yeah.
There's so many dealers there that sell cars, yes, but how many dealers buy cars? We all buy cars, we always have done for years, but how many dealers actually proactively shout, I want to buy your car?
Absolutely. Listen, 30 minutes of presentation. I hope we covered 5 subject areas. We could have been here for another hour, and hopefully some people wouldn't have nodded off, but we would have certainly had plenty to talk about. So I hope you've all taken something from that, and do circulate and enjoy the rest of your day. It's turned out to be a really successful event, so make the most of it.
Thank you.
Thank you.